Hey there, welcome back to Blackmagic Craft. Resin, specifically for water effects, and I have a very troubled history. I've done a lot of water pours on like little dioramas and stuff on this channel with a varied amount of success, heavily weighted on the failure end of things. Some were mild failures where I got some bubbles, but the project was still usable. Some I was able to pick apart and remove the problematic resin and redo it. And others were flat out irreparable disasters. Resin is a very finicky material to work with, but at the end of the day, all of the problems I've had have been user error. Just because the product is unforgiving and you have to really get things right, it's still my fault if I didn't do that. I have yet to find a water pour solution that works for me, something that's dependable and quick enough for my kind of pace of working. A company called Let's Resin reached out to me after seeing some of my failure builds and said, hey, we see you had some trouble with resin. Want to try ours? I'll give it a go, but it's likely not gonna go very well. I can't promise anything. I'm not very good at using resin. They sent me some resin and some silicone and some alcohol inks for free to use. But this video is not sponsored by them. If it goes badly, you're gonna see it go badly because I'm gonna do it here on camera. Yeah, and it is what it is. The actual sponsor of this video is Archvillain Games, and I used models from their new sci-fi line that's launching this November to make a little test diorama to pour some resin in. I didn't want to try this on the first time on a big involved build that I really cared about, just in case it goes bad. Because historically, it usually it has gone bad every time. But I still wanted it to look decent. If it succeeded, then I'd have a cool piece. So I looked through their bundle of models. I picked this one character I really liked. She's designed to be on a base where she's leaning on a barrel, but that was too small. I didn't want that. I wanted to make a bit more of a scene. So I actually grabbed the head of one of the bigger centerpiece models, this like cyborg dragon, and I combined the two of them. I found a way that they would fit together nicely, creating the scene where it kind of looks like she has just slayed this creature. To make this dragon head actually look like it was decapitated, I had to saw off the little nub used for joining the pieces together. And I also wanted to hollow out the neck a bit. I used a Dremel to carve out and sand out this recessed, hollowed out area in the neck so that I could embed some wires and some other 3D printed pieces from this set to make it look like it had these severed cables and whatnot. I mounted it on a little mound of milliput so that it was raised up a bit because I knew that I would want to be pouring some resin, and this wasn't a scene that I wanted completely submerged in water. I wanted it to look like maybe, she had slain this cyborg dragon thing flying in the sky. It had exploded and fallen into a swampy, toxic mess, and she had gone out to claim her prize, but it wasn't underwater in a lake. I did a very quick paint job on it, which I gotta say, I'm getting really happy with my level of fast painting. I painted this entire scene probably in, 2 hours. And I think it looks really pretty darn good, It's not gonna win any awards, but it'll look nice enough on the shelf. So now I have to actually pour resin on it, which means I need a dam to catch the resin. And I was smart this time. Rather than just planning to put some tape around it, which has a tendency to leak and also not make very nice edges, I made myself a mold. This is pretty cool, and I really hope this works. You see, they also sent me this silicone rubber, which is good because I know it's safe to use with this resin. So the idea is that I can place this in here and pour the resin into whatever height I want, and it will collect nicely. To make this mold, I took one of these same round 3-inch wood bases, hot glued it to some foam, cut it to shape, and then wrapped it with a few layers of tape to kind of smooth out that foam cut and also make it just slightly bigger than these discs so it wasn't too hard to get this in and out. I then glued it inside to a little Tupperware container, mixed up some silicone, following the instructions closely, and I used another one of the same containers to help me judge the volume, which I think was clever. Poured it in, let it sit, and you know what? It turned out great. If this works well on this, I now have a mold that fits these 3-inch wood bases perfectly for future bits of terrain or dioramas or minis. And that's cool. So fingers crossed this works. So this is ready to go, but now I actually have to mix up the resin and pour it and hope that it all goes well. These are big bottles. It's a 1-to-1 ratio by volume, not by weight. So I'll have to measure that out. It says not to pour over 200 milliliters at a time because it can flash cure. And that's a problem that I've had in the past. It basically just means that you have too much resin generating too much heat too quickly, and that can cause the resin to basically boil and bubble. So you want to pour bigger ones in layers. What I don't like is that it says it's gonna take 1 to 3 days to fully cure, and I don't have that kind of patience. However, it does say you can demold it in 8 to 24 hours. It also says you only have to wait 3 to 5 hours between layers. If you want to build something up deep, you don't have to wait days and days and days. 1-to-1, mix it up for 3 minutes, pour it. It says it's supposed to be bubble free, which we will see. It also warns to not tint it with anything water-based, which, you know, that's something that I've done in the past that has caused some problems. They were nice enough to send me some alcohol ink as well. So this is a colorant I can use in this resin or in other resins, which hopefully will avoid any issues causing the resin to fail or do anything weird. I'm thinking like a toxic green. We got like, oh, okay, here, yellow green. I gotta gather some mixing cups, some paper towels, and get ready to try this out. While I do that, let's talk about this week's sponsor. Archvillain Games needs no introduction, as they have been the leading 3D miniature model provider for over 3 years now. But what you might not know is that they have expanded into a second sci-fi themed line. This line is full of models great for sci-fi RPGs like Starfinder or Spelljammer, and especially good for sci-fi based war and skirmish games like Stargrave and Warhammer. They're specifically designed to work perfectly with Archvillain's own upcoming skirmish game, Battle Rune. Just like their fantasy line, these models come pre-supported with dynamic bases, and the set includes some very large models. When you sign up for this new set, you'll also get access to the Star Vault, which is an awesome sci-fi themed welcome pack. The actual theme for the first sci-fi bundle is a clan of futuristic magic tech-wielding battle dwarves. You can sign up for just the sci-fi bundle on their Patreon, or get the best value deal by joining the Omniversal tier, which gives you full access to both their sci-fi monthly releases and the fantasy ones. Archvillain is busy preparing an epic Greek mythology themed Kickstarter for 2023, and has been working with the legendary Ed Greenwood to develop Drifting Havens, their original role-playing universe. Be sure to join up to their Patreon, link will be in the video description. All right, here we go. Gonna try to do this properly. It's very warm in my room, so the resin is actually quite warm. I am going to use 2 small mixing cups that have incremental measurements on them. And what do we got here? Oh, we got a, oh, I didn't spill that. Wow, that was lucky. So I have 15 mil of this. So there's my part B, my part A. Big bottles, little cups. Not the easiest. Yeah, those look to be bang on even. It doesn't say to add colorants to part A or part B, so I think I can add it to the mix. And it says to mix it slowly for 3 minutes. So that's what we're gonna do. One of the other claims this resin makes is that it's odor-free. Telling you, most resin smells pretty bad. So far, it seems to be truthful. I'm not smelling anything. We'll see when it actually combines and has its chemical reaction. Try to scrape everything out of the cups so that I keep my volumes as equal as possible. All right, now let's add some alcohol ink. Just a very tiny bit. Hopefully I can do 1 drop. I don't know if this is, hold on. Is this sealed? Yeah, it was sealed. That's it, just 1 drop and see what it looks like. Very yellow, still very translucent. Definitely don't want any more than that. Do I want a very, very, very tiny bit of green in there? And I think I do. I almost want less than a drop, like a half a drop. Okay, 1 drop. Let's hope it's not too much. All right, that's a nice toxic Mountain Dew color. I'm intentionally mixing this up on the sides of the cup. This way it'll mix in any, single part resin that is stuck to a side. I gotta mix this for 3 minutes, and I'm mixing it slow because I don't want to introduce a bunch of air. There's nothing left to do but pour. And it actually tells you to pour it close to your project, not to do a high pour like some resins recommend. So we're gonna do what the instructions say. And I'm gonna go real slow so that it has time to really self-level and work its way into all the spots. It is a little bit thick, a little bit viscous. All right, the mold is certainly gonna work for stopping leaks, and I know that, I'm confident about that. There are a bunch of micro bubbles in here, which I'm hoping will just dissipate as it cures. I'm just gonna leave it and let it do its thing. Come back and check on it in, what's the demold time? 8 hours? Fingers crossed. Is this the magic resin? Let's hope so. All right, it's been 24 hours, just about. Yeah, this seems to be cured. So I think it's probably safe to demold this now. Looks like it's settled nice and flat, barely cleared, nice translucency, but it does look like there's a lot of very small bubbles in it, unfortunately. Well, that was easy. Okay. It's very nice and smooth. It's not tacky. The mold worked wonderfully. The translucency of the resin, even with the inks, is fantastic, but there are still a lot of bubbles. Lots of micro bubbles. Now this stuff, again, it says that it's bubble free. So clearly it's not. However, much like I said before, resin, tends to almost always be user error. Pouring this onto an item, something that's covered in texture and has lots of little air pockets. If I had just poured it directly into this mold, made a resin cast of a shape, it may have turned out bubble free. I think that when doing something like this, it probably would have been wise to paint on with a brush some resin onto all these textures, because it does mention in the instructions that if you're gonna put something like a leaf or a flower into your resin, that you should dip it or brush on resin first. And I suspect that's kind of to seal it, and that probably would have helped here. That being said, I'm actually quite happy with how this turned out. The resin feels nice and hard after just 24 hours. That 3-day cure time really is just a full cure. This, in terms of working, it's just 24 hours. I'm very happy with the way this mold turned out. The fact that it fits these discs is fantastic. Yeah, overall, really good. It wasn't a miracle resin. It didn't instantly work perfectly. I still need to take some extra precautions and care, I believe. But this turned out much better than the vast majority of resins I've ever done. Had I gotten these results on some of my previous projects, I would have been very happy. This stuff is good. I like it. I will continue to use it. And the little bubbles are fine for something like this. I'm gonna put a bit of clear water texture paste on top of this just to give this flat surface a little bit of ripple. And I think, yeah, it's a pretty nice little diorama, vignette, whatever you want to call it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, hit the like button, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to grab some of this resin, I will put links to it in the video description. I will also have a link there again for Archvillain Games, the sponsor of this video, if you want to get some of their sweet models. If you want to grab any other tools or equipment for your hobby needs, check out blackmagicraft.ca. They have an essential equipment page with links to stuff that I use regularly. And last, if you really like these videos and you want to help me keep making them, the best way you can do that is by supporting the channel on Patreon. I'd love to have you as the newest member of the Black Magic Craft Fellowship. Cheers! See you next time.